Prior to the start of the 2023-2024 Premier League season, I made some predictions on how the Premier League table would look like by the end of the season. And with 10 games left to play for most teams, I couldn't have been more wrong or even disappointed for teams like Manchester United, Chelsea, and Burnley. Nonetheless, I've also been disapproved by the incredible performances of teams like Liverpool, Aston Villa, Tottenham, and perhaps Burnley. Welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert K. Sarkos is my name. Thank you for all those that have been watching our content in recent times. For those that are subscribed, I'm indebted to you for the rest of our time here. And for those that have not yet subscribed, I do encourage you to hit that subscription button and turn on your notifications so that you can be notified when we do publish another episode. Anyway, today we'll be looking at what my predictions were prior to the start of the season in comparison to where all those teams stand currently on the Premier League table. My predictions did not span all the entire 20 teams because it looked at the top 10 and the bottom 3. Yes, I did get some right and I've gotten quite a number wrong. But what were those predictions are prior to the start of the season? What were your predictions are? Like the norm is amongst YouTubers, amongst broadcasters, and everywhere in the world of sport, these predictions are made. Some get it right, others get it wrong. And I must say, almost for most or for the majority of those predictions, many of us got it wrong with Manchester United. Personally, I had hoped they would finish third on the Premier League table, but they are standing at 6th place as we speak is clearly a tale. There are those that went as far as predicting or even hoping that they would lift the Premier League table, while many did seem to think they would finish behind Manchester City in 2nd place, predicting that Manchester City would carry the day come May. Personally, my prediction was that come the end of May, it will be red ribbons that will be gracing the Premier League trophy, with Arsenal standing on top of that Premier League table. And how do things look like with 10 games left to play? Like I said, I did predict Arsenal to go ahead and win the Premier League title. And with 10 games left to play, whereas I still stand by that prediction, I must admit that I'm left with some doubts. Reason being, the teams that are chasing them, it is Liverpool and Manchester City. Liverpool being the surprise performance of this season. Personally, I predicted that Liverpool will finish 4th, but as we speak, they are 2nd. And until last weekend, they were standing on top of that Premier League table. The other pack chasing is Manchester City, who have won this title 3 times in a row and 5 out of 7 times of asking. So clearly, it will require a miracle or perhaps an extraordinary performance to Arsenal, which may entail winning all their last 10 games if they are to carry this trophy. So, in comparison, Arsenal are still on top of the table. Yes, they did stumble in December, and that clearly put a lot of doubts on their title credentials, not just on my side, but on many people's sides. And even to present day, it is not unjustified when you find a majority or maybe many people urging that Arsenal won't be able to lift that Premier League title. When we all made those predictions, none of us had thought that Arsenal would find themselves in the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League and that they would have drawn Bayern Munich to play at that stage. Is it a factor? Yes, to my side it is, because the UEFA Champions League, as we all know, is quite competitive. They needed extra time to knock out FC Porto because that went all the way to penalties at the round of 16. So when you factor in that double fixture against Bayern Munich, clearly it has an impact that could be either big or small on their pursuit for the Premier League title. But they are top of that Premier League table with 64 points with just 10 games left to play. They've lost 4 games, they have won 20 games and drawn 4 games. In 2nd place is Liverpool, but like I said, I had predicted Liverpool to finish 4th. With the rebuild that they are going through under the charges of Jurgen Klopp, who has since announced that he will be leaving the Reds at the end of the season, I did think that having missed out on the UEFA Champions League last season and the major signings that they managed to do in the summer, including Alexis McAllister, Dominic Soboslai, Wataru Endo, Ryan Gravenberch, that those were good enough to help propel them from where they finished last season to at least fourth this season. Like I did mention in the same video, for which I'll leave the link in the description, I did say that Liverpool would almost go unnoticed. And yes, for the better part of the season, they almost went about their business unnoticed, winning game after game, losing just a few, because all season they've lost only 2 games, losing to Tottenham Hotspurs by 2-1 and losing to Arsenal. The others have been at least 7 draws to their name and 19 victories. So clearly, certainly, we just woke up and they were top of the Premier League table and had been there for quite some time until Arsenal did flog them prior to the international break. So they are second. They are performing beyond my own expectations. In third place is Manchester City, who I thought and still perhaps do think will finish second on the Premier League table. Today they are third with 63 points. Liverpool and Arsenal are tied on similar points. Both teams have 64 points, with Manchester City in third place, a point behind the top 2 teams in Arsenal and Liverpool. I did predict that Manchester City would finish second behind Arsenal, and I still hold the same school of thought. Now, going into the final 10 games of the Premier League, it goes without saying that Arsenal will be visiting the Etihad Stadium in their next fixture on March 31st to play Manchester City. That fixture may not be conclusive of who will win the Premier League title, but it will have a big say in who goes ahead to win. If Arsenal do go ahead and win that fixture, it is a plus to their confidence and how much they've improved as a young team in terms of remaining in the fight is concerned. If Manchester City do win that game, it probably tips the scale in terms of the odds of who can go ahead and win that title. As we all know, that once they climb to the top of that Premier League table, they surely know how to stay there for the rest of time until the end of the season, especially with just 10 or 9 games left to play. So they are third with 63 points as we speak. 19 wins to their name, 6 draws, while they have recorded 3 losses. In fourth place on the Premier League table are Aston Villa. Clearly, Aston Villa are one of the better performers beyond my own expectations this season. Unai Emery has proved me wrong, despite having engagements in the Europa Conference League, for which they are still competing in the quarter-finals. Our predictions were that they would finish 8th on the Premier League table, but here they are, fighting to finish in the top 4. Yes, in recent times, their form may have not been top-notch, but clearly, they still hold that dream of finishing in the top 4, whereas I had predicted them to finish 8th. In 5th place on the Premier League table is Tottenham Hotspurs, who I thought, after the loss of Harry Kane in the summer, would finish 7th on the Premier League table. Ange Postecoglou has clearly demystified the stereotypes of new managers competing in the Premier League. He has made the best of this Tottenham side, especially noting the recruitment of James Maddison, Brennan Johnson, Pape Matsa was a new face to most of us, the likes of Wodoki, Vicario, new faces to some of us. They've been outstanding in their performances. Their captain, so quite spectacular. He has led that team in incredible fashion in the absence of his compatriot in Harry Kane, who has since switched allegiances to Bayern Munich. So they stand 5th in comparison to my prediction. They would finish 7th on the table. Perhaps things could change in the final stretch of the 10 games. But I do think they also have it in their power to retain that position and perhaps even finish a position high. In number 6 on the Premier League table is Manchester United. Like I did say, Manchester United has disappointed majority of us who predicted on where they would finish on this table at the end of the season. Personally, I predicted that they would finish 3rd on the Premier League table, while others called them for 2nd, and those that had hoped, perhaps wishfully, did mention them as title contenders, that they would finish, that they would win it all. But as we speak, they are 6th on the Premier League table. And in that spell, they've managed only 15 wins, 2 draws, and 11 losses. So you can see clearly draws come right at them. 47 points, 6 points behind 5th place Tottenham, and 9 points behind Aston Villa, who are in 4th place if they are to fight for that UEFA Champions League spot. In 7th place is West Ham, and now clearly, like I said, I had predicted Spurs to be the ones in 7th, but it is West Ham occupying 7th, and they were not even in my top 10. Why? Because I thought their engagements in the Europa League would be quite engaging and daunting a task for them to retain decent performances in the Premier League. And indeed, they've had their struggle times during the course of the season. But their placement in the 8th place is lesser to their incredible performances, but more to the weaknesses of their opponents, who have occupied at least these top 10 positions. And we'll be looking at some of those teams. In my opinion, Brentford being one of them. Not to mention Chelsea. Very disappointing for my predictions there. So it is West Ham United in 7th place. In 8th place is Brighton and Hove Albion. My prediction was that Brighton and Hove Albion would finish 6th on the Premier League table. Those are just 2 places behind where they are. And just it's a point difference of 5 with Manchester United who are occupying 6th. They could still go ahead and finish in that place. But especially bearing in mind that they were knocked out of the Europa League, so they will not have European engagements. 4-1 on aggregate, they lost that one, that double fixture against AAC Roma. So Roberto Di Zerbi, he still has a point to prove with big clubs across Europe clamoring for his signature. Reportedly, Barcelona considering him on that list, that whereas he falls behind Hansi Flick, who is reported to be their number 1 target, and the likes of Thiago Motta, it goes without saying that he has been mentioned in the conversations of succeeding Xavi at Barcelona. At Anfield, they may also be looking at his name, where Liverpool will be losing Jurgen Klopp. Roberto Di Zerbi is a name they have pondered. And Bayern Munich are thinking that should they fail to land the signature of Xabi Alonso from Bayer Leverkusen, maybe, just maybe, between Erik ten Hag and Robert Di Zerbi could be one of their choices, but who knows? For those of you that are interested in knowing who the next Barcelona, Liverpool and Bayern Munich managers could be, do not just check out that video on our YouTube channel. I did drop it yesterday. But anyway, so Brighton are 8th on the table. In 9th place is Wolverhampton Wanderers under the charges of Gary O'Neill. Of course, I didn't predict this to be in our top 10. And in 10th place are Newcastle United, who I thought will finish 9th on this Premier League table. That was my prediction for Newcastle. I did make the argument that them being in the UEFA Champions League would take quite a toll on them in regards to how they compete back in the league, and it has proved to be the case. It goes without saying that injuries have also accosted them a lot of players in absences, and hence that impacted their performances. But I do think they could still finish 9th. They're just a place behind that. And then, like I said, I predicted the top 10 and then the bottom 3. But I'll give you a mention of who occupies between 11th place and 17th place. In 11th place is Chelsea. Now, in my predictions for the season, I thought Chelsea would finish 5th on the Premier League table, and these have been one of the worst performances as far as my predictions go. I did think that the introduction of Mauricio Pochettino, with his experience in the Premier League, could give Chelsea the advantage, not to mention all the player recruitment they had done all summer and dating far back beyond last summer. I looked at players like Enzo Fernandez, the additions of Moses Caicedo later on, of course, the likes of Romeo Lavia, Nicolas Jackson, Axel Disasi being in that team, Malo Gusto, all those being in that team, Kylo Mudryk, and I thought to myself, well, Chelsea have a chance, not to be in the top 4, but at least they would finish 5th. And as we speak, they are 11th on the table, with financial fair play rules about to catch up on them. They are really on their heels, and they do need to make at least £100 million if they are to stay on the right side of these UEFA financial fair play rules. if you want details about that financial situation at Chelsea, do check out a video about Chelsea's financial situations on our YouTube channel. Thank you for those that have watched it already. But if you haven't, do check out the video. In 12th place, anyway, is Fulham. Fulham under Marco Silva. Marco Silva has been mentioned as one of the few names that big clubs could consider, but I do not think he has the potential to manage a big club. He is a good manager, but oftentimes things go astray on him. We do remember him for his days at Everton, where things didn't work out and they had to let him go. And whereas he has performed fairly well at Fulham, for me, he has question marks on his capabilities of managing a big team, a team with more pressure and high expectations. In 13th place is AFC Bournemouth. Initially, when I was making my contemplations or predictions for this season, I did think that Bournemouth were potential candidates for relegation, although I placed them above Nottingham Forest. So in the end, the conclusion was that they would stay, but then that they would struggle through the season. And indeed, they have had their struggles in the season. Because if you look at, I think at the first 10 Premier League games of the season, they could have won, one or two fixtures. So, but anyway, Andoni Iraola seemed to have gotten things clicking midway the season, and they have garnered some points, at least 35, and they lie in 13th place on the table. They just need 5 points to guarantee their stay in the top of the Premier League. Not that they're immediately under threat of relegation, but at least to guarantee their safety, they need those 5 points. In 14th place are Crystal Palace. These ones have obviously struggled through the course of the season, which eventually led to the resignation or the stepping down of manager Roy Hodgson because of his healthy reasons. And then, of course, they brought in Oliver Glasner, the former Eintracht Frankfurt manager, who led them to the 2022 Europa League triumph, and he's trying to manage that ship to save them from any potential relegation. So they are 14th. In 15th place are Brentford. Frank has disappointed me. Perhaps you could blame it on some injuries that they did suffer along the course of the season in Bayern in Buemo, not to mention Ivan Toney's ban that only saw him return in Jan, because he had that 6-month ban for breaching of betting rules in football. But nonetheless, they've still been very underwhelming this season. So they are 15th with just 26 points on the table. In 16th place is Everton. Whereas I didn't mention them anyway in my predictions, I did think they would struggle this season. And of course, the situation with the profit and sustainability rules that have costed them did not help their situation. In 17th place is Luton Town, who are at 22 points, and I had predicted Luton to be at the bottom of the table come the end of the season, but it looks like Rob Edwards is doing not a very bad job for their first season in the Premier League. They've been quite daunting for teams at Kenilworth Road and sometimes on the road. Their only good thing is that they score plenty of goals, only that they concede a little too much. Sometimes they've conceded as many as 60 goals. The other two teams who have conceded more are Burnley, who have conceded 63, and Sheffield United, who have conceded 74. So clearly, that conceding of too many goals is concerning. In 18th place are Nottingham Forest, who had predicted would finish 18th and would be the third team to be dropped. Now, it goes without saying that they were recently deducted for 4 points for their breach of the profit and sustainability rules. They had initially 25 points and were somewhere behind Everton in 17th place, but have since dropped to 18th place. So, if Nuno Espirito Santo is not quick, because he was the one that did replace Steve Cooper when he was shown the exit, Nuno Espirito Santo may see this side drop into relegation. Burnley come in 19th place. I thought Burnley would be the dark horses of this season in terms of performances. I didn't think they would be in the top 10, but I did think they would be somewhere between 11th and 13th place. But clearly, it has not worked out for Vincent Kompany. They do play some good football, but at the end of the day, they just do not know how to grind out a result. So they are 19th on the table with just 17 points. Like I did say, they conceded a lot of goals. They conceded 63. In bottom of 20th place is Sheffield United under the charges of Chris Wilder. Of course, I'd predicted that Sheffield United would finish 19th on the Premier League table, so that's not far from the prediction. Clearly, they will be relegated by the end of this season, and it doesn't look likely, bar a miracle, that they can save themselves from relegation. Mathematically, if they do a push, if they can win the next 10 games for themselves, they do have a chance, but I do not think they have the potential of making that happen. So, don't wear my predictions versus where the teams stand with at least 10 or 9 games left to play for most teams. Some teams do have as many as 11 games. That's for teams like Chelsea. Chelsea have played 27 games, while majority of the teams have played 28 and the others have played 29. So, clearly, as things stand, my question to you is, who do you think will win the Premier League title? Just give me your prediction for those that will finish in the top four. And if it's not too much to ask, you can add on the top six, considering the Europa League places they are in that could be considered. Otherwise, that's it for me. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Robert K. Sackles is my name. Have a blessed Sunday.